Hello, and welcome to Ignite Your Personal Brand Virtual Summit. I'm your host, Darlene Hawley, and I'm so excited to kick off 2019 with these powerful stories and trainings to help you create an authentic, magnetizing, and profitable brand and business. In this series, I'll be interviewing amazing women who are sharing their story for why they started their journey into entrepreneurship, and they're sharing their top tips to make an impact on your bottom line so you can create a thriving business in 2019. And I am so excited for today's guest. I don't know about you guys, but I love Pinterest. I've been using it for years, doing recipes and looking at home decor and all the fabulous things you can do. But you can also use Pinterest to grow your business. So I have an expert with us today. I have Kathryn Moorhouse, who's going to teach us all the tricks, all the tips that we need to know to start using it to grow our business. Hi, Kathryn.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being on with us today. I know that you live up in Canada. Go ahead and tell us a little about yourself, though. Tell us how you got in Canada, why you live in Canada now, and kind of who
and where I'm from. So
yeah.
I'm Kathryn Moorhouse, and I'm a Pinterest strategist and educator, meaning I teach business owners how to use Pinterest for their business. And it's a very interesting story how I got into Pinterest, but into Canada. Well, I'm South African, in case you didn't know the accent. And I came to Canada when I was 16 years old on a high school exchange. And ever since I got back, I told my parents, I'm moving there one day. And so I set the goal and now it's happened. And we are so excited to be here.
Now you're there.
Yeah, exactly. We're so excited to be here. And it's like a business goal. You know, it's very similar to a person. Like when you set your personal goals, it's very similar to business. You have to set the intention. It takes time. It took us a good like 4 or 5 years to get it sorted to come here after like I decided, okay, I was going to move. But yeah, we made it happen. So in terms of Pinterest, I started out as a social media manager. I studied marketing and business and went into social media management after a variety of marketing jobs in corporate and things like that, realizing, it's not something I wanted to do. My husband worked from home, so I was like, I want to do what he's doing. And he's a graphic designer and web developer. So we were like, yeah, I think I should figure out how to work from home. And so I started a baby clothing company initially, handmade baby clothing business, obviously why I got onto Pinterest in the beginning. Yes. And once I connected with entrepreneurs and I started chatting with them and things like that, they were seeing my skills in social media management. And one of those entrepreneurs reached out and asked if I wanted to be her social media manager. And I hadn't even thought of that at that point. And so long story short, I eventually got into social media management. After a few months of becoming booked out in the overall social media management, I realized my passion was with Pinterest. And years before that, not knowing this path I would take, I told my husband, only I could get paid to pin. Like that was what I said a while back. And not knowing where I would end up, I ended up deciding to niche down into Pinterest marketing for businesses. And so that developed into eventually teaching others how to do what I do, and then also teaching business owners how to use it for their own business.
Wow. So it wasn't even something that you had on your radar. You were just using it for your clothing line and other ways. And I'm assuming you were really good at it because people were asking you, how do I do this for myself too? And you were able to get into that. That's great. And it's funny because sometimes we don't know what direction life's going to take us.
Exactly.
Out of left field, something comes along and you're like, oh, wait a minute.
Exactly. I've heard so many people say as well that when you connect with other people in business, never underestimate the power of a relationship with someone or getting to know someone, even if there's no benefit right now in terms of that network. You never know where things are going to take you. You never know what kind of connection will lead to you starting a whole new business or anything like that. So I've learned to just really enjoy every single area of business and connect with people who are outside of my industry and outside of what I do, because I know that everything we do now builds into our future business. Every decision we make, every action we take. So yeah, it's a very interesting path.
Yes. Yeah, you have to be open because like you said, you don't know what life's going to bring to you and how it's going to be directed. And we're surprised by it a lot of times too, because it's not something we're expecting. It's not something we're even looking for, but it's such a blessing when it falls into our lap and we've made those relationships and we've collaborated with other women, and all of a sudden there's this new opportunity.
Exactly. And you, like you say, you never expect it. It just comes out of left field. It's like, whoa, didn't expect that.
It's a nice surprise.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I know a lot of people think of Pinterest kind of as a social media platform. It's fun. It's somewhere to go and, pin, like I was saying earlier, recipes and home decor and travel tips, or maybe make a bucket list on there. But there's a whole nother side, excuse me, there's a whole nother side now to Pinterest that you can utilize. That's not social media. It's not a place to just make friends and connect at. It's actually an SEO for your business. So
Definitely.
Can you talk to us a little bit about how that works? How is Pinterest an SEO? It's kind of like Google. It's almost bigger than Google at this point, I think. I know I go to Pinterest for ideas way sooner there than I do to Google anymore. So tell us how that works as far as the business.
I was going to say, eventually one day, I think we're going to say, you should just Pinterest it. You know how we always say you should Google it? It's going to be, you should just Pinterest that. But
I think we're onto something. We'll start.
Exactly. And one of the things I always say when I try and explain how Pinterest is different to other social media channels and other search engines is that you have to think of Pinterest like if Google and Instagram had a baby, that's what Pinterest would be. Okay, it is the beautiful search engine functionality of Google, for example, with the beautiful visual aesthetics of Instagram. So what you have is a really powerful search engine where instead of getting a text-based result, so in Google, when you type something in, they give you blog posts back and it's generally in a text format. So you have to read everything to figure out, is this article actually answering my question? And you look at the website and you're like, does this actually answer my question? Is this a spam website?
Is this going to work?
Exactly. So with Pinterest, they produce visual results. So it comes back in terms of images. But those images link to websites that contain the content. So it's kind of like Instagram, except searchable. And then if Instagram had images that you could click on, and it would take you actually straight to the link, it would be very similar. So it's got a mixture. It's sort of taken a mixture of all the great aspects of different platforms and put it into this one powerful search engine. So when you think of Pinterest and you go on there, let's go to the old school thought pattern of recipes, where we used to do searches for recipes. I mean, we still do, but that used to be the main thing that happened on Pinterest. Yeah. And so when you go onto Pinterest and you type in a recipe, you click enter, and what happens? The visual images come back. So we always used to think, okay, it's just sort of boards of images and recipes and things. You can search for a couple of things. But we didn't think of it like a search engine. It was just a grouping or a board, a visual board of, these beautiful recipes. But what it actually is Pinterest allows you to add pins, naturally, to Pinterest that link back to your recipes on your website. And what happens is when you type in to the Pinterest search bar, Thanksgiving cranberry recipe, it will find all the recipes on Pinterest, all the pin images that have that keyword associated with that pin, and it will produce that in the search result for you. Then you get the option now to take a look at the image and see if it reflects what you're looking for. Instead of having to try and read and be like, is this clickbait? Are they actually going to give me the recipe? You're seeing images, and we're a very visual world now. We react really well to images. We like seeing them. We feel like it explains a bit more about what we want. So when you can see a picture of a restaurant that you're going to go to and it's well lit and you can see the tables, I'm going to go eat there. That looks like a lovely restaurant. More than just necessarily a text-based thing saying there are tables and chairs in the left-hand corner, and on the right-hand corner there's a beautiful painting, for example. When you see a picture of it, you're more likely to take action. Be like, I actually want to go to that restaurant. And so that's why this visual side in terms of the search engine is so powerful, because people respond well to images and they're able to see that it actually reflects what they're looking for. Now, something else that the search engine does, Pinterest search engine, is when a number of pinners begin to engage with a pin image, it places that pin image higher up in the search result, meaning Pinterest has validated more and more people like this content. It's not that it's just search engine optimized, but it's also that people on Pinterest have engaged a lot with it. So it's been validated as a good quality piece of content. And on top of that, Pinterest then also mixes the concept of looking at what's on your website landing page that you're sending them to and the pin image to see that they link together. That then also pushes you further up in the search engine. So if Pinterest can validate that where you're sending them is exactly the same as what you're showing them on the image, you're going to get a higher placing in the Pinterest search engine. So you've got all of these different aspects that come together: search engine optimization through keywords, validation through other people's clicking and engaging with the pin, and then also making sure that the content you send them to relates exactly to what's on the pin image and what you've stated in the pin description. It's all going to help you place higher in the search engine, for example, and get more engagement and visibility in front of people. So their whole concept is making sure that when someone searches for something, they don't have to scroll too far down before they find exactly what they're looking for. And so that's why they've put together this variety of ways to showcase the best pins at the top.
Yeah, and it's really the best of all those worlds. Like you were saying, I'm personally a very visual learner, so I always have gravitated to the picture part of Pinterest, and the same thing with like Instagram and things. Like I love those pictures where I don't want to necessarily read through a bunch of words and see if I'm going to find the word that's attracting me, like having those visuals and being pulled in. But I love that like the backside of it has the Google aspect where it's pulling it in and all your keywords and everything are coming together in there.
Exactly.
So how is it then that business owners are able to get their pin, say, to go viral? Or I know you said that a lot of it has to do with keywords. Are we talking keywords only in, say, like a blog? If, as a business owner myself, like I write a blog, I add it to my Pinterest board. I try to make sure I have my keywords well placed, not only in my blog, but then also in the little description part of it. So how is it that it really how do you take it to the next level to where it's not just a pen that's kind of just sitting on your Pinterest board? How do you get it to the place where it's moving around and people are actually seeing it and it's showing in the algorithm of Pinterest?
Yes, so there are a variety of ways, and there are a few places you can actually place keywords. So when you think about your Pinterest profile as a whole, this is your first step. You want to look at it from the perspective of Pinterest. Pretend you're walking into their headquarters as your business, and you are saying, this is what I'm about, this is who I'm attracting, and this is the kind of content I create. If you had to walk up to someone in Pinterest headquarters, you would give them small keywords. You would tell them, I am a wedding photographer attracting brides in Milwaukee, for example, like very specific if you want to. And I share blog posts about how to pose for your wedding photos, for example, or I share tips for brides on, their wedding photography, something like that. You're sharing specific keywords with this person at Pinterest so that they can get an idea of who you are, what you're sharing, and who you're attracting. You have to do that, except not walking into the Pinterest headquarters. You're doing that through your Pinterest profile. So your Pinterest profile now has to have keywords across the profile that indicates who you are, who you're attracting, and what you write about. And that means making sure Pinterest knows that you're a wedding photographer, targeting brides in a specific area, making sure that those keywords are associated not only with the individual pin, but with your entire profile. So to give you an example, when I was creating my program to teach business owners how to use Pinterest for their business, one of the things I had to do was start up a brand new Pinterest account so people could see this in action, basically. And what I did was I decided, let's go with a travel blog. I'm going to start that. And I opened up the Pinterest boards. I created the name of the Pinterest profile. I added the Pinterest profile description and added board names and board descriptions. I had not added a single pin yet. A single pin. This was a brand new profile. The next day I came in, my entire home feed for this profile was targeted to those keywords that I put in on that profile. It took 24 hours for Pinterest to update my entire home feed and the people who were then starting to follow me, and I hadn't even added any pins. This was purely looking at the overall profile and saying, how can I tell Pinterest who I am, what I'm going to be offering, and what kind of topics I'm interested in? And because I've created a business profile, they know I'm not coming at it from a personal side. They know I'm coming at it from a business side. So the keywords I use are to target people who are interested in those kinds of things. And so just with that, I'd already created this home feed that was super targeted. So it had all the pins that I would want to repin onto these boards. It also started showcasing my profile to people who would want to follow me because of that specific industry. And so it was phenomenal just to see something like that in action, for example. So one of the things you need to do, besides just creating the pin description and adding your keyword in there, is to utilize the spaces on your profile to add your keywords. That's your profile name, profile description, board names, board descriptions. All of those places have an area for you to put a keyword. So your board name actually needs to be searchable. If you want your, let's go with a very simple thing, because I know we talk about business, but sometimes it's easier to understand it in terms of like home decor. If you have a home decor board and you wanted to show up in the search result whenever someone types in the word home decor, you need to name the board home decor. You can't name it something like Kathryn's fun home style, for example. No one's
necessarily searching for that.
Exactly. I mean, okay, you could all search for that now if you wanted to, but there won't be a board for that. But that's the thing, is like you have to look at it from the perspective of your ideal clients and what they will be searching. So whenever you create anything on your business profile, whether it's a pin description, board, anything like that, you're looking at it from your ideal client's perspective, saying, what would they type into the search bar if they were looking for this? And then before you even create that board name, go into the search bar as your ideal client and type it in and see if other people on Pinterest are searching for it. What words are they using? Sometimes you'll see nothing show up under that search result. Random pins, but no extra blocks underneath the search bar. Those little blocks are the guided search. So the little blocks that appear under the Pinterest search bar when you type something in, it's called the Pinterest guided search, and it's to help people through their search, basically guide them through their search. And that's based on the high search terms from the majority of people on Pinterest. So for marketers, that is a goldmine, because you get to see what people are actually typing in and where they go once they type something in. So if someone types in home decor and their little block on the far left says home decor kitchen, then you know that when people are searching home decor at the moment, the highest search term in relation to home decor is home decor kitchen or kitchen home decor. Now, that is super important for businesses, because now you get to see what they're actually typing in. And then you can start creating your board names from that, adding in the keywords in multiple places. But back to your question where you were talking about, besides just putting your keyword in the pin description and putting your keywords in your blog post, how can you help your pin go viral? There's a few things that you can do. The first is to make sure that when you write blog posts, you're writing the content that people are actually engaging with. You're writing about things that people want to engage with. So that means going back to your Pinterest analytics and seeing what blog posts and what content your audience has actually been clicking on and repinning. So when you share other people's content on your profile, it acts as a way to find out, what is my audience actually interested in? So I shared blog posts from other people on these different kinds of topics, and it looks like everybody seems to be clicking on the kitchen home decor lamps. Let's go with something like that. Weird, okay, but let's say that's the specific topic that they're clicking on. It is an insight into what they are willing to engage with and what they're searching for. So when you create content, this is even before you think about how to get the pin viral. This is, how can I make sure that the content will go viral? And that's something that people actually want to click on, is to look at what they're currently engaging with. What are they currently repinning? What are they currently clicking on? Because if they are clicking on it and you create a piece of content around that kind of topic with your perspective, it's more likely that they'll click on it. If you're just creating the content because you feel like this is what they need to know, they may not be engaging with it. They may not be willing to click on it or repin it. Even if you've got the perfect image and you show up high in all the search results, if it's not something people are interested in, they're not going to be engaging with it. So your content has to be engaging. And that already starts by looking at what they're currently clicking on. It's sort of a validation process to make sure that any content you create, you know they will engage with. Now it's just about, when you take it onto Pinterest, making sure it shows up in front of them. And that, like you say, is the keyword. And then it's working on your pin image. You want to create a variety of pin image templates for each of your blog posts, because when you create multiple versions for one blog post, it attracts the different kind of people who are interested in maybe different color palettes or different styles of images. So you might see the same blog post from someone that you follow with a specific pin image, and then there's a whole different pin image for the same blog post, leads to the exact same place, but you're going to click on the one that stands out the most to you, that catches your attention. And your ideal clients all have a slightly different thing that attracts them. So sometimes your one brand color will stand out more to certain people, and your other secondary brand color might stand out to other people. Sometimes people want to see more of an image than text. Other people want to see more text than image. And so you're creating a variety to capture those different people. And then naturally, in terms of your pinning strategy, this is how you're going to get it in front of people. So when you implement a pinning strategy, where do I pin it? How often do I pin it? Those kind of things. That's what affects it being seen by more and more people over time. Your keywords help it show up in the search engine, but you want to help it along by getting it in front of more and more people. So things like group boards, tailwind tribes, your own normal boards, and repinning it consistently over a period of time. Even if you repin it into the same board again, that's fine. Just give it some space between the last time you pinned it. Yeah. But when you do something like that, for example, you're just allowing it the chance to get in front of more people. So when you put it in a group board, it's being seen by that group board owner's followers, the collaborators. If any of the collaborators share it, it also reaches their audiences. And it goes beyond just the followers of each individual that sees it, for example, or repins it, because they have an audience that isn't following them but sees what they share. And so it just keeps expanding like that. And that's your goal. You're trying to increase the reach of the pin, because the more people that see it, the higher the chance that they'll engage with it, especially if you focus on creating engaging content right from the get-go.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head, making sure you're putting it towards your ideal client too. I work with my clients all the time on making sure they know exactly who their ideal clients are, so they can use the right words that they're searching for, so that the way they're speaking to their clients is pulling them in and attracting them. So yeah, it makes just as much sense when it comes to Pinterest, making sure it's not just for us and who we are and what we're putting out there, but it's really calling in our ideal clients, so that it's things that they're searching for and ways that we're going to be able to connect with them on a different level.
Exactly. So it's all about them.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes as business owners, we forget that. We're like, well, this is what I want to do and what I'm thinking. But if that's not what our clients are looking for, you're doing a disservice to yourself, because you're not going to attract them in. So you're just creating a blog post, or you're creating a post and there's no engagement, and you're the only one that read it, maybe a couple other people. But we want to make sure we got the right audience, people coming in and looking at it. And you just mentioned like the tribes and using other people's boards to grow our business. What's the secret to that? Like, how do you know which boards you should request to pin your blog posts on? How do you do that?
So it can be a complicated process, and sometimes it's trial and error. But there are some things that you should take a look at. So firstly, you wanted to find a broad group board to follow. So when you think about your business, you want to basically join different kinds of group boards. The first one is very niched group board to your business. So if you're a wedding photographer, find a board related to photography and wedding photography, those kind of things. Then you want to go more broad. If you're teaching business aspects, for example, around wedding photography or photography, then you can join some business boards. If you are targeting brides, for example, and you join the wedding photography boards, the photography boards, you want to join some bridal boards. And then you also want to join some, they're called, in most cases, it would be things like mom life or lifestyle or things like that. So those are the kind of boards that are a bit more broad, but you can add in your kind of content because it attracts those kind of people. So it's a very broad board, and that's why it's hard to describe what it is, but they're basically in the lifestyle realm. They're in the, the beauty realm, those kind of things. As long as it fits in with your brand and you can share your content on it, you want to get a good spectrum of broad versus niche boards so that you've got both. And then when you search for them, there's a variety of ways. One of my first ways is always to start with Pinterest and type in wedding group boards, for example, because there's a lot of people who've written blog posts that showcase some of the best group boards to join. And you can find that through Pinterest, or if you want to go to Google, you can try it in Google to expand your reach in terms of blog posts that maybe people haven't put onto Pinterest. I don't know why. But, so it's just two different ways to go and find those kind of things. There's Pin Groupie. There's a few others that have popped up where you can search for Pinterest group boards to join. But the thing is, when you find a group board, you want to take a look at the owner of the group board first. You want to see, who is this owner? What do they share? Firstly, what are the rules on the board? And also who their followers are. So what kind of people are they attracting? Are they attracting people that you want to get into your business? Great. Then you can join the group board or request to join the group board. If their followers aren't exact to the kind of people you're trying to attract, but the collaborators on the board are the people you're trying to attract, you can request access to the group board. Because the thing is, you can showcase your pin in the group board and the other collaborators are going to see it and potentially want to share it, or they're going to want to take action and hire you, for example, or visit your posts. So there's a variety of ways to look at it, from the follower aspect, from the actual board owner, if you want to be in that realm and reach the audience they're reaching, if you want to reach the collaborators on that board, or if you want to reach the followers of the collaborators on the board. So if any of the collaborators have a following that you are targeting, then you can request access to that group board, because if that person shares it, it's getting shared in front of that following that you're targeting. So it's always about, again, coming back to who's in this group board, who's following the group board, who's following the collaborators of the group board. Does it align with my audience and who I want to attract, for example? And the same thing with tribes. In the beginning, with tribes, for example, it's less about the followers of those people, because sometimes it's hard to tell. So when you go to a tribe and you're searching a niche tribe and you're searching more broad tribes, then you want to see what kind of content are people sharing in that tribe. Because with tribes, it's very important for you to share one-to-one. And the same with the group boards, but it's definitely important in tribes because they're normally a small knit group. And so the kind of content being shared needs to be really high quality for the small amount of people on that tribe, so that everybody can keep sharing each other's content. So again, it's about looking at the collaborators and looking at the content on the actual board. So that's always my suggestion for that. Sometimes you'll join a board thinking this is going to be a fantastic board. Always come back 6 months later, take a look at either your Tailwind analytics or your Pinterest analytics to see what boards are performing the best. And if the group boards aren't performing really well for you, they're not getting a lot of engagement, repins, clicks, or anything like that, then you may want to leave that group board. If it's not serving you, but you're spending your time pinning to it, rather spend some time finding a better group board that's going to get you better engagement.
Okay, that makes sense. And I know a lot of people have said too, like, maybe you want to be on 5 boards or you want to be on 20 boards or 100 boards. What's kind of like a sweet spot? Like, we don't have a ton of time to repin every day and go in and make sure that we're showing up everywhere. So what's kind of a good place for people to start? Like, can they start to see some traction and start to see that their pins are being reshared? Is there a magic number for how many boards to start with, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the best is just to get started. Even if you just have 1 and 2 and 3 and you build up. The sweet spot, if you wanted to stop at a specific point, could be anywhere between 5 and 10. If you go beyond that, that's also perfectly okay, because you've got a bigger variety. And sometimes when you start joining a few, you get more and more requests for you to join their group boards and their other group boards. And eventually you start to see it sort of compounds like that. But if you want to see just the basic return and you want enough variety and options in terms of the group boards you can share to, 5 is a good number where you're not going to get overwhelmed. You're going to be able to keep track of those kind of things. If you get any more than that, that's fantastic. I don't think there's really a limit as long as you're joining good group boards and you're sharing your content to those boards.
Yeah, and making sure that, like you said, they're relevant to your ideal client, to the materials that you're writing out, and making sure that they're sharing yours as well, because you don't want to just be sharing everybody else's content and some of the other people are not engaged in the group or really active. So making sure that group's active as well, I'm sure, is important.
Definitely.
What other tips would you give to us? Is there anything that we've kind of missed on that we haven't really touched on that you feel like is important for us to know?
Yeah, well, there's a lot to look at when it comes to Pinterest, because there's a few different ways that you can go about basically everything. But one of my biggest tips, and it's not necessarily, the traditional repin this or put a keyword here or do things like that. It's starting out before you even get onto Pinterest, spending a little bit of time, which I know everybody struggles with, to focus on your goal. What is your ultimate goal with Pinterest? Because the thing is, when we dive into a new social media channel or search engine or anything really for our business without setting the specific goal we want to achieve, when we want to achieve it by, and then the basic steps of how we could achieve that, we just go in blindly and try and, like they say, throw things against the wall, and hope something sticks.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you set a goal and you say, my ultimate goal with Pinterest is to get email signups, and I want to get X number of email signups within the first year, so by X date, for example, you have a clear, already, just by stating that, you have a clear cut path to what content you need to share from your website. Firstly, you have to share the content that will lead them to an email sign up. If you're sharing a product, but your ultimate goal was the email sign up, and you're not sharing any of your content that has the email signups attached to it, you're not going to reach your goal. So by creating and setting this goal, you're making it a lot easier for yourself to say, what content is the most important content for me to continuously share? Like if I only have 10 minutes to spend on Pinterest every now and again, or every single day, for example, what content must I share? I have no choice in this. This will help me reach my goal. The minimum viable content you need to share to at least, lift that bottom line and also achieve this goal would be the content that leads to the email signups. And not just that, but the content that leads to the highest converting email signup. So if you've got a blog post that always gets you the highest number of signups, email signups, for example, that is the one you want to spend a bit more time on. Make sure you're sharing it more often. Make sure you're creating a variety of pin images every now and again for the same blog post and for that opt-in. So just by setting that goal, it can already direct you when your time is limited as a business owner into the most important tasks you need to do and the kind of content from your website that you need to be sharing.
So good. And how often should we show up on Pinterest? Like, should we stop in at least once a day? Is it a couple times a week enough to get it kind of going viral and getting some traction? Or
so you need to be pinning every single day. Pinterest is one of the places where they require you to pin a lot more often than most places. Consistency is huge. And so their suggestion is at least 5 pins per day. So that could be a combination of your pins and other people's pins. So if you want to go on every single day and pin 5 images. It's really quick and easy. If you're having a cup of coffee, you open the app, you share 3 pins from other people to your boards, and you share 2 of your pins to 2 of your boards or 2 of your group boards, for example. Done. Next morning, same thing, until eventually you can build that up. Now that's going to be a slower process when you can only do 5 pins per day and you're doing it on your app, for example, where there isn't necessarily a long-term strategy in place. It's going to take a little bit longer. But the great thing is Pinterest just recently came up with a scheduler in Pinterest. If you don't use Tailwind, which, eventually as a business, I would suggest you utilize Tailwind so you can schedule a month in advance. You can see the content flow. You begin to look at your seasonal content and make sure it's going out at the right time. And you start to make sure there's a strategy behind it. But if you are in the position right now where you just want to get started, then utilizing the Pinterest scheduler might be a great thing. They let you schedule 3 weeks in advance from the pins that you currently add to Pinterest, so any new pins. So that might be a great starting point for you. Alternatively, you can utilize the app and just try and keep track of the kind of pins that you're sharing. So yeah, 5 pins per day at least. So that's the bare minimum that you want to be doing consistently every day. Yeah.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that you can schedule now, because I was actually on Pinterest right before our call, and I noticed that I was pinning our virtual summit to get it onto Pinterest, and I saw, do I want to schedule it now or later? And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I don't remember seeing that before. So I'm glad I wasn't crazy. That's new.
It is. Exactly. And I think they're going to improve it. So it should allow us to hopefully schedule other people's content in the future and, be able to see everything planned out, but we will see.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, I know that you've given us so many different tips and ways that we can start implementing Pinterest into our business. And I know that you have a wealth more of information that you can share with us. And I know you have a free gift for us. So tell us a little bit about the free gift that you're offering to everybody as part of the summit?
So I have a 10-step checklist to get your Pinterest profile set up with the search engine in mind. So if you are getting started, or if you have a Pinterest account that may be a personal/business account, and you're thinking, I don't really know if this is optimized in the best possible way, this checklist is just a simple 10-step process to take you through the next 10 things you need to do to make sure that your profile is optimized for the search engine, but also to make sure that you set a really great foundation to work from. Once you have this foundation in place, you have the ability then to implement a strategy over the long term that's going to help the growth. But without that foundation in place, it will feel like you are just going in circles and circles and in circles. So be sure to grab that free gift. So it's the 10-step checklist, and you can get it at kathrynmoorhouse.com/10, so 10 steps. Work through those 10 steps and you'll have the right foundation to start with.
Thank you so much for that. I know that it's something I'm going to download as well, because Pinterest has not been something that I've spent a lot of my time for my business side. I have my blogs up there, but I'm not good. I don't do my 5 pins a day, and that's changing because it is the top way that you can grow your business now. There's so many people using Pinterest and coming to that area, and I think we're missing out if we don't make it a priority to utilize that in our business model. So make sure it's in your goal boards. If you haven't set your goals yet for 2019, Pinterest has to be one of your top strategies. And Kathryn, what ways can we find you and connect with you? I know you just mentioned your website was kathrynmoorhouse.com. Where else do you hang out besides Pinterest? I know we can find you there.
Yes, you can definitely find me there. But besides Pinterest, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I generally hang out on Facebook because I do trainings, live video trainings there. So you can catch me at facebook.com/Kat Moorhouse, K-A-T Moorhouse. Also on Instagram at Kathryn.Moorhouse. So we'll probably have those links there. But yeah, and then just message me if you want to connect or you have a question or anything like that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kathryn, for being on with us today. I know that we're going to all be able to take huge strides and steps in our Pinterest game. And by the end of 2019, it's going to be one of our top generators for attracting our clients in and growing our business. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure.